Good day. Welcome to Conversations with AARP in the Virgin Islands. I'm Troy Deshabert Schuster, State Director of AARP in this territory. And as always, it's a great pleasure and a delight to be with you. Thank you for joining us today and participating in this discussion with attorney Tom Bolt, the Uniform Law Commission trustee for the U.S. Virgin Islands, on simplifying the estate planning process in this territory. AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan member organization advocating on issues that matter to you and your family for more than 60 years. Through its policies and advocacy, AARP remains committed to solution driven conversations that are most important to older Americans. AARP in the Virgin Islands is particularly concerned with providing Virgin Islanders with practical solutions to streamline the process of estate planning to help ensure the efficient and orderly transfer of property after a loved one passes. Today's guest will share the approach of the Uniform Law Commission on leading the charge to improving the advanced life planning process for Virgin Islanders. And so we welcome Attorney Tom Bolt. Welcome.
Good to be here. Good to be here, Troy.
Thanks. And before we launch into our conversation about the work that we've been doing in the Virgin Islands in particular, tell us a little bit about the Uniform Law Commission. What is it all about? I'm sure a lot of our listeners have never heard of the Uniform Law Commission.
Well, the Uniform Law Commission is a national commission that was started about 130 years ago. It was designed because under the U.S. system, if something is not in the federal Constitution as a power of the federal government, it is reserved to the states. And there are a number of things where there is need to coordinate between the states and territories the law, and so they came together. We did not become a member in the United States Virgin Islands until I think it was 1988. And I was counsel to the legislature at the time. And I kept seeing these uniform acts. I said, well, where are these uniform acts coming from? I mean, what? And they sent me a reference book. This is a good story. They sent me a reference book and I read up on it and everything. I read their Constitution. It said, now, if you don't have an act to appoint commissioners, you can, the president of the Bar Association, could appoint somebody. So I think it was Vince Coliani from St. Croix appointed me. And I sent that up to them or whatever. And they said, well, we sent this to our executive committee. And they said the Virgin Islands could be an observer. I said, observer? What you talking about? I said, this is listen, I mean, we got to do better than that. We need to be a regular member. They said, well, listen, we got a meeting of the National Commission is meeting in 2 weeks, and you got to pass legislation. I said, okay. And I went to the floor of the legislature at the time, and I told them this story. They gutted an act they weren't going to pass and put in an act to appoint commissioners. We got that thing passed on that day, and I took it up. I think it was up to Juan Louis, and he signed it. And I said, keep my seat. I'm coming up to, and it was in Washington, D.C. And so they said, this kid will never make it. He'll be around here for a year or two, but he'll be gone. I mean, we ain't got to worry. And now I think I'm like 33 years or 34 years going as Uniform Law Commissioner from the territory.
Well, that is a great story. And thank God you were so persistent because now you got that through. And now we have a Uniform Law Commission and we can become more uniform with the rest of the country. So great work on that. Excellent work. And I understand there's also a second Uniform Law Commissioner in the territory?
A second Uniform Law. Well, we have a local Virgin Islands Uniform Law Commission, which consists currently of Yvonne Tharps representing the legislature, myself representing the bar. There's a third appointment that is a gubernatorial appointment that hasn't been made. Oh. And so, yes, there's a local component.
Oh, so there's a local uniform law commission here, but
Right.
you are the official uniform law commissioner from the Uniform Law Commission to the Virgin Islands. Is that how it goes?
Or from the Virgin Islands to the commission, and
Okay.
I'm chair of the local commission, and I serve also, as I said, is Yvonne Tharps is also a uniform law commissioner from the Virgin Islands.
Okay. Great, great, great. And do you work with the Uniform Law Commission to craft acts, national acts?
Not only do we work with the Uniform Law Commission to craft acts, but we will also work, and I think this is important to note. We also work with AARP. I was on a national committee, a drafting committee, and we adopted or passed an act which has been adopted of recent date. Like I think this past year was the Uniform Transfer on Death Real Property Act, which allows, a lot of people tell that they, oh, we need to form a trust. Well, you don't necessarily need to form a trust. A trust can be expensive, and AARP saw this, and we worked together with AARP and drafted this uniform TOD real property, transfer on death real property. And so what happens then is that you can transfer it to your children or whoever you want to upon your death. But anytime prior to your death, you can change it. Lord, no, I brought you into this world and I take you out. And no, you can put who, and you still control, because one of the things that we saw after Hurricane Hugo, Marilyn, Irma, and Maria was where people had put their kids on a piece of property, and then they needed to go get like an SBA loan, or some kind of loan from FEMA, and you had to have them, the kids, because their names was on the property. You had to get their signature on the mortgage or whatever that you were going to sign. And I saw on several occasions where kids would say, "Listen, Mom, Pop, you too old. You're not going to be around, and I'm going to have to pay this mortgage, and I'm not signing." And it caused a lot of confusion. But this uniform TOD real property deed would take care of that. So you still control your property until your promotion to glory.
Right, and it's a great act, and we have it here in the Virgin Islands. It's now the law here. And for those of you who are interested in executing a transfer on death deed, it's as simple as visiting your recorder of deeds office, and they're quite familiar with the document. They can help you to fill it out there, or if it's too complicated for you, you can have an attorney do it, and then you have control of your property and can avoid it from going in probate. But at the same time, you, as Attorney Bolt just said, you control your property up until the moment of your death. You can make all the decisions you need to make regarding that property. And thanks, Tom, for bringing up about how AARP works with the Uniform Law Commission. Again, a lot of people here in the Virgin Islands don't know the great work that AARP does with the Uniform Law Commission on the national level. And then I, as a state director here, work with you to then rally a senator or a couple of senators to sponsor an act of the Uniform Law Commission. And then we offer testimony on it and usher it through to enactment by the signature of the governor. So we do great work together, both nationally and here locally. It's a great pleasure.
Absolutely.
Great. And so we're always working on stuff. And this year, we touched 3 items. First is the Electronic Legal Materials Act. And now we're in the process of electronic wills and electronic notarization, electronic notaries. So if you will start telling us a little bit about the Legal Materials Act and how that benefits Virgin Islanders.
Well, it's helps authenticate what is the true law of the Virgin Islands. And but we started this process some years ago, doing more and more. We passed some 18 years ago the Uniform Electronic Transactions Act, and then we passed the Uniform Electronic Recording of Real Property Act, and where you could email a deed, a legitimate deed, to the recorder's office, and they record it. They haven't implemented that fully yet. They've still working on the software, and we probably need to sit down with them and do that. Then came this Uniform Electronic Legal Material Act, which, as I said, can authenticate records, that it is the law of the Virgin Islands, and it preserves, either in print or electronic form, our laws, our regulations, and it's, make sure that the law of the Virgin Islands is accessible to the public on a permanent basis. I mean, too often our laws are not accessible to the public. And, we have the Virgin Islands Code, but also there are Virgin Islands rules and regulations, which are sometimes harder to come by. But hopefully we will have all these will be in and I think available to the general public.
Now, who is responsible here in the Virgin Islands for making sure that these documents are scanned into a database or whatever and accessible to the public? Would that be our judicial branch, or who would be
I think
responsible?
a lot of the stuff, that has always traditionally been with the government secretary, which is now the lieutenant governor's office, and I believe that they, are the ones that sign various contracts on things, and then also the lieutenant governor's office will do things such as that electronic recordation of real property, because they have the recorder of deeds. But I think it's mostly the lieutenant governor's office.
Okay, well, great. At AARP, we'll follow up on that. We will make sure that this is implemented. Sometimes things become law, and it takes a little while to implement, but we're good at lobbying and advocating, and so we will make sure that this gets implemented and that people have access to that. I've of course heard many times about the VI code. I've read most of it myself, I believe, but I've never heard of the rules and regulations. So I need to look that up and see what that's all about.
Oh, they're
Very
extensive, and like they have been published in hard copy some years ago. But we're adding new rules and regulations all the time. And it does bear, in fact, even yesterday, I was working on a particular project, a housing project that will be a new housing project for two new housing developments for St. Croix. And I didn't realize that some of the things that I was working with are more clearly stated in the rules and regs.
interesting. And who develops the rules and regs? It's not the legislature. Is it some other branch
Well,
of government?
it is a legislative function, but the legislature then turns over to the executive branch the ability, pursuant to Title III, Chapter 35, Virgin Islands Code, to draft rules and regulations. However, so that a commissioner or someone and his staff would come up with regulations, you send them up to the governor signs them, but then you have to get it. You also need to send it down to the legislature for their review and approval, or if they don't either approve or not approve, then I believe it automatically becomes the law.
Great, great. Well, this is all very good to know. And looking at the second piece that we're working on, that's the electronic wills.
Mhm.
So tell us a little bit about wills. First of all, start off with what does a will do? Because a lot of people think that just having a simple will keep your property out of probate. But tell us, what will a will do and what will a will not do? And then how we now have electronic wills, or
Well,
how a
like
will.
a will, um, you know, uh, be your directive as to what you want to happen upon your passing. What one of the things that has happened of recent date is we have tried, one of the things has been is in probate, and to try and avoid probate. And we do that with the TOD real property. We also deal with that in a number of other things where we passed on bank accounts where you can have a multiple person type account where it will transfer to that person upon your passing. We've got that with stock accounts. That's another uniform act. You have an account at Merrill Lynch or one of the other brokerages, and they'll have you sign something when you open that account where it goes. But the Electronic Wills Act, that came, one of the things, it was a COVID act because, I mean, people needed to address their last will and testament, but we were in this situation with COVID where people weren't meeting in person and this kind of thing. So this allows for with a number of safeguards, allows the execution of this of the will electronically.
Okay, now just another question for clarity. So let's say somebody does have a will, but they've not executed a transfer on death deed or any of these other instruments, but they just have a basic will. So will their property end up going into probate? And once it's probated, then the will is followed as to how it's divided up after? Or will that will be able to keep their property out of going on probate if they have not executed any of these?
No, it doesn't keep you out of probate. You have to go into probate even when you have a will. We can take a number of things out. As I said, bank accounts, stock accounts. You can even get your car. The legislature, like this non-probate thing, and you can. There's even legislation now that has been adopted in the Virgin Islands so you can transfer your car if something happens to you, so that you don't have to go through probate. But just with just the will, no, you would have to. I mean, the court and others would follow your directive that are in that will.
And that's what I wanted to get to, because a lot of people think that just simply having a simple will keep the property out of probate. And the response is no, it will still go to probate. But once the probate process starts and moves along, then the judge will refer to the will as to how to divide the property.
But what needs to happen is we've been adopting, I mean, like Lewis Hill, I think it was back in the 28th legislature, passed the entire Uniform Probate Code. Well, this was a horse pill to swallow. And that when they adopted the entire Uniform Probate Code, and a number of lawyers, judges, I mean, were concerned about, current practices, and that it did not adhere to current practices. We need to adopt Article 2 and 3 of the Uniform Probate Code that would deal with this. And, we shouldn't be afraid. I mean, we've gotten to a position where we're afraid to go to probate because it is so time consuming. It is so costly in the Virgin Islands, but it doesn't need to be that way. In many jurisdictions, it is a very simple process. And I think we can have it as a very simple process if we could get Articles 2 and 3 of the Uniform Probate Code adopted. And we are working on that. There are a number of senators that are in support of that. And hopefully in this current legislature, in this 34th legislature, we will adopt that. And so that the probate process will be much simpler.
Yep, and at AARP, we're right there alongside you working on this, and we are going to be lobbying, advocating for this, and yeah, we do hope to see this passed through the legislature and enacted this year. So looking now back to the electronic will, so now here we have this bill. for electronic wills, and it is bill number, looking at here my notes, bill number 34-0156. And that has already passed through the committees of jurisdiction, and shortly it'll be going before the full body of the legislature. We expect it to be passed there unanimously or close to, and then on to the governor for approval. So please, those of you who are listening, please lobby your elected officials to vote in favor of Bill number 34-0156, an act of the Uniform Law Commission establishing electronic wills, the Electronic Wills Act here in the Virgin Islands. Now, once you have a will, you need to have it notarized. With, the signatures have to be notarized. So that brings us to bill number 34-0155, the Virgin Islands Uniform Revised Online Notarization Act. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this is another one of the three acts. It was electronic legal material, electronic wills, and the Uniform Law on Notarial Acts. And each of these, we sent a letter from the Uniform Law Commission to each of the senators in the 34th legislature. I think it was February of last year. And they have done quite well in the legislature. They enacted ULMA, and we thank Carla Joseph, Senator Carla Joseph, for her sponsorship there. Then they have also have passed what I know as RULONA, which is the Notarial Acts and Electronic Wills. And again, that's thanks to Novell Francis from St. Croix, who has been the primary sponsor, I believe. And but this would allow, again, we were in a situation, and we'll probably be there some, I mean, heaven forbid, but again, with the pandemic and the situation where we were isolated, we were confined to our homes, but we needed certain documents to be notarized. And this allows that to happen. Now, there are a lot of things that have to go into play. There's software that the notary must utilize. There, you have to record the whole transaction. It's got to be available for 10 years. I mean, there's a number of safeguards that are in there, but it allows for a situation similar to what we have here, that you could notarize, or you could sign a document, and I, as a notary of the U.S. Virgin Islands, could notarize that, but with the safeguards that are in place in the legislation.
Great. And so to make it a little more simple for our listening audience, so what this act does really is that it authorizes notaries public in the Virgin Islands to notarize your documents electronically. But, this has to become law first. It's still in process. It'll be coming before the full body of the legislature, I believe, later this month, and then onto the governor for approval. And then once it becomes law, then the local notaries public will have to acquire certain software for their computer to be able to notarize your documents electronically. It is very safe, it's very secure, and we don't see that there's going to be any fraud involved with this. It seems like all the software is very well developed. So we look forward to having that become a law here, so our notaries public can notarize your documents electronically. And this really helps, especially for people who are not able to come out of their homes. I know that there are certain mobile notaries who will come to your home or to your place of business. But as we mentioned a couple of times during the show, with COVID-19 still around, sometimes you don't really want people to come into your home to visit you there to notarize a document. So this will make it very simple to do electronically. For those older people who may not be technologically savvy, you have your offspring, you have your grandchildren who can always help you with that. And then you can get that notarization done electronically, not only to notarize wills, but notarize any kind of document.
I've got a situation where if we had passed this, I mean, it would certainly help an elderly woman that is in Paul and Pearson Gardens in St. Thomas. lives there by herself, but needs a power of attorney to give to her children. And I'm going to have to go to her home or apartment at Paul and Pearson and do that this week. But if we had passed this RULONA, this Notarial Acts legislation, we could have done that electronically.
Fantastic. Now, back to another topic, if you will tell us just very briefly, we have just a few minutes left, about Articles 2 and 3 of the Uniform Probate Code. What are some of the highlights of those two articles that will make it more simple here in the Virgin Islands to go through probate?
Well, I think it is not the involved process. It is a simple process. I think another thing that we're going to need to do that as part of that is we have in the Virgin Islands, you've got pieces of property that came from a great grandmother or something, and then went to the grandmother, and then went to the mother, and they haven't probated like 3 or 4 probates. That, I mean, it's almost insurmountable. And then what has happened is when you go down generation after generation after generation, you go down like 4 generations. I mean, you have all these great grandchildren, I mean, that are all over the United States or all over the world, and trying to have them come together. So I think that they've done this in a number of jurisdictions, and I think that we need to do something similar, at least to clear this backlog. I mean, you've got properties, I'm sure you have in Christiansted and Frederickstead that have been tied up in probate and that are just lying fallow. I know we have them in Charlotte Amalia, the capital city, and that where they're just are not being used. And I'm a big one. I mean, I'm a big advocate for housing. And when we have 2 and 3 generations of Virgin Islanders that are living in one household unit, and I think that a lot of these young people, a lot of these youth, I mean, if they had an opportunity to get a piece of the rock, and I think if we did this, it would open up some of these homes. It would revitalize our historic towns in the Virgin Islands, and would allow that opportunity for young people to come in. But I think that the process is much more simple under the with forms and different elements of the probate code that it just are not as involved and is not as complex and time consuming and costly. I mean, I can't tell you. I had a retiree some years ago, and a dear friend of our family's, and she died with, I think, about $20,000. And it took years. All she had was one bank account with about $20,000, and it took years. And the family ended up with having legal bills and having and time consuming, and it doesn't need to be that way. It should not be that way, and I think we all agree on that, yep. Including, I mean, the lawyers. I think the Bar Association agrees with that. And so, right. I mean, we all need to come together with AARP and the 34th legislature and hopefully enact this Articles 2 and 3 of the Uniform Probate Code.
Yep, we will absolutely do that. We will get that done this year, and we ask all the public to join with us. So we were out of time now. You've been listening to Troy Deshabert-Schuster, State Director of AARP in the Virgin Islands, in conversation with Attorney Tom Bolt on St. Thomas, who's the Uniform Law Commissioner. So, Attorney Bolt, thank you much for being with us. Have a great day.
Thank you. Take care.